So another thing that I was really interested in trying to do on the farm was to raise 2 pigs. And I just, they're so nice here, they give people who come read a free book. So I got that Backyard Homestead book, the story guide, just came out. And it's so funny because she's like, yeah, even city people can raise 2 pigs in the backyard. And it's like, oh yeah, try that. So here's what happened when I did that. I went to Boonville, I went to the 4-H auction, the swine auction. I'm just going to start here. We had just gotten the pigs loaded up into our station wagon and drove it home, and then we let them. They're very cute. Back in the ghetto, I herded the pigs into their new home. It was just getting dark. The air felt heavy, but it wasn't raining. That morning, in anticipation of the piglets, I had enhanced the chicken area with a bucket filled with water and a feeding trough made from the same metal wash tub I had once used to dip and pluck Harold, the turkey. I had also tipped the barrel sideways with the idea they would sleep in it. The chickens had walked into the barrel and pecked at the metal trough. They seemed confused. Safely behind the closed gate of their yard, the pigs seemed mildly curious, but far from geniuses stomping out Morse code with their cloven feet, thank God. They ran around kicking up sawdust as they had done in the ring a few hours before. The chickens came down from their roost to investigate their new house guests. The piglets sniffed at the chickens, which caused a panic, and the chickens retreated back to the chicken house for the night. The pigs were both red Durocs. Durocs, sometimes called Jersey Reds, are known for quality fat production. These pigs had, even at their young age, the classic arched backs that one often sees in profiles of meat company labels. They had curly tails, but it was not a tight curl, and I noticed later that they wagged them when they were happy with a certain food item, or the sun was shining just right, or I was scratching their backs with a stick. The tails then did convey emotion. As they checked out their surroundings, they made quiet grunting sounds. I wondered if the city noises, a police helicopter circling the hood, someone yelling at the junkyard dogs next door, would be a shock to their system. They had, after all, lived in the deep country, all trees and pastures. But if they were disturbed by the city's smells and sounds, they made no sign of it. Pigs, I was glad to see, were not very sensitive. Bill and I looked at the pigs newly installed in their pen as they nosed around the corners of the area. Then they stood at the front of the gate and smiled up at us expectantly. We read their minds. Where's the pig chow? On cue, we jumped in the car and raced over to Chinatown. That night, for the first time ever, Bill and I threw open the dumpsters with our hearts and minds. Will they eat, we wondered, these soggy pieces of Chinese donut? I discovered yes. These chunks of leftover duck from the restaurant window in which everything exuded a steady flow of oil, including this duck head? Yes. Wontons and dumplings covered with somehow frosting? Yes. Grapes? Yes. Watermelon? Yes. Egg fried rice? Yes, yes, yes. Bill and I anxiously unloaded our 2 buckets of slop from the car. We had never collected such a disgusting assortment of salty and sweet, meat and vegetable. But pigs, I had heard, were omnivores, and so we were respecting that. When we walked through the gate to the backyard, we were greeted by 2 grunts, one deep, demanding, the other soft and questioning. I hefted a bucket full of Chinatown into the metal wash tub trough. The pigs began feeding before the second bucket was empty, so I ended up pouring a load of grapes and wontons over their head and watched it bounce off their shoulders and land on the straw-strewn ground. Their focus was amazing. While they ate, the pigs let out small sighs of approval. Their lip smacking was audible. At times they would stop chewing and simply suck up juices through their nostrils. Oh, they were the best dinner guests ever. The pigs stopped eating for a moment and gazed up at us. Their mouths moved continuously. Their chins were smeared with frosting and grease. Now that I thought of it, these pigs had probably never eaten food like this before. They probably only had their mother's milk, a few handfuls of pig chow, maybe a rotten apple. Now they were eating Chinese, like good urban pigs. The goats are interesting. You know, when I finished with the pigs, I was like, you know, I really need a long-term relationship. All I have are these animals I'm like killing over and over again. I'm starting to feel like a psycho killer. And so I got goats with the idea, a long-term relationship. I milk the goat, I feed the goat, you know, there's like this great combo. But then, yeah, what I figured out is that, you know, they have males often. So, unfortunately, yeah, so I'm gonna, yeah. So the goats are for milk and meat. We only had one boy this year out of 4, so it wasn't too bad. And the great thing about living in a city is that there's all these people from different countries that live around, and they've all had these like incredible experiences. Like the guy who lives down the street who runs a liquor store, his name is Moses. He was a goat farmer in Yemen. And so he actually has come over and showed us how they do the halal butchery, the halal slaughtering of goats. So it's been really useful and interesting to see that. And I always I'll bring my goats over and ask them questions about their goats. So it's like this great little thing. I just carry the goats over and everyone's like, what the hell is that? So that's been nice. But yeah, and they're Nigerian dwarf goats, so they're really like the small goats, because I don't have that much room in my backyard. And they have we have a back porch, and they just run up and down it all day long, and it seems like pretty good goat territory.
Do you have to milk them every day?
Yep, milk them every day. But see, I just do once a day. Most goat farmers do it twice a day. I'm like, oh my god. But see, I'm not a dairy, so I'm just milking once a day. It's a lot, yeah. And it's I milk them at 7 in the morning, so it's after a rough night of partying, I'm just I actually fall asleep while I'm milking the goat. Anybody that's milked a goat, you just can rest. They are sort of calming, and they smell really good. It's very nice. Then I go back to bed, so. I don't know. I'm not, the reason I did it is because I was crazy and I had sort of I figured I could just do it. I don't really have any I'm not a do-gooder, you know what I mean? I'm actually a bad doer. So I don't know, so that I have a hard time, I don't know what the answer is, but at the same time, I do see that people are really hungry in my neighborhood, and it makes me sad. Yeah. And so I do, people, it just sort of happened naturally as people show up and they want food and I feed them. But it's not I was I'm going to save the world by feeding everybody. And because plus the way I do it is not going to feed anybody. More like Willow or people who do these nonprofit organizations where they're actually empowering people by teaching them how to grow vegetables in their backyard. Yes. That's a really functional thing that will work. Whereas I'm just more a weird oddity of the neighborhood that just sprang up and will probably go away, and everyone will be like, oh, remember that crazy lady who had pigs, I don't know.
New name for you, the Honorable Dandelion.
The what?
The Honorable Dandelion.
Well, that would be nice, yeah. Actually, I did have some kids, or a woman came to a reading the other night, and she said that she has some kids that would love to come over to the farm, or I could come in and do a demo where I bring some rabbits or whatever and show them the farm animals. The fact is you guys are so lucky because you can, I'm sure, go to any farm and show your kids animals, but in the inner city there's nobody, the kids don't even know what a chicken looks like. But what's sad too is that a lot of times they don't care to know what a chicken looks like. We had, I was out walking my goats one day, and we were in this schoolyard, and there was a drive-by shooting. There was a guy actually standing with his gun just shooting this jumpy thing. We're kids. We're yeah, we saw this. We're holy crap. We're the goats were totally freaking out. We were totally freaking out. And then all these kids who were in the jumpy thing came running over to us, and they were we are so scared, and we're oh my god, we're so sorry that happened, and let's call your mom, and then they were we're so scared of the goats. No big deal, but so it was really that was really sad. That really made me realize that's how bad it is. That is what it's gotten down to. So.
They were used to drive-by shootings?
Yeah, they're used to that, but they're not used to it.